Namaste Galactic family, and welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. If you are new, welcome, and if you are returning, don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can continue to receive my messages. And as always, thank you guys so much for your continued love and support of my channel. So many have reached out to me to just give me that extra love and support, so I really appreciate everyone who's been in communication with me and sending me emails, and all of my Patreons as well. Thank you so much for being dedicated to higher consciousness, and to for some of you for working with me the last couple of days via Zoom and Skype. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. Thank you so much, and I love you all. So welcome back. Welcome to a Mayan Galactic Energy Update. I am currently in the inner city downtown Cancun area, so I'm probably going to have some interference in this video. Not only is it pretty windy out, but it's very warm. It's a strong breeze that comes through every so often, and also there's a really busy street behind me. So sometimes when I am traveling, I just cannot get around some of these types of disturbances when it comes to filming. So just right there's a big gust of wind that came through. But yeah, I just wanted to welcome you guys back. I do have a Mayan Galactic Energy update for you today. So yesterday I had visited Tulum, and Tulum is a pre-Columbian Mayan walled city, and I wanted to film this update there, but by the time I arrived, it was way too crowded to be able to really kind of do anything in there. I made the mistake by not getting up as soon as the park opened to get there. It kind of took later in the day for me to get there, so there was a ton of tours. So this place is really busy right now. The entire city is hustling and bustling. Tourism has not slowed down, and all of the sacred sites are very active at this time. So it almost felt a little hijacked to me, in the sense that it didn't feel as sacred as the experience I was hoping to have there. But I'm in gratitude for having the experience that I had there. I just wished that the way in which tourism honored these sacred sites was a little bit more rich in the culture and the sacredness of it. It seems that there are a lot of mindless, soulless beings that are there. A lot of people that there is no deeper thought really as to what or why these ruins are. It's almost like people are in a theme park or something. Like they're just kind of looking at it as if these are attractions that for entertainment. You know, I didn't see a lot of sacredness. So it was just, it felt a little hijacked. It felt that the civilization or the culture that now is inhabiting and holding these areas as, attraction sites, that there's a big disconnect from the current timelines from what once was. And so I think that was the biggest disturbance for me. I even had a little bit of an emotional moment there because that realization had sunk in for me, just more than it was a feeling of just disappointment in some ways, even though the site itself was beautiful and was completely amazing. So what I'm going to actually do for this update is I'm just going to kind of include some clips of Tulum that I recorded while I was there throughout this update to kind of activate the vibe for this video today, because it truly was so beautiful. I mean, it was completely breathtaking. And I really recommend anyone who is traveling down to Mexico for connecting to the Mayans, even connecting to their galactic code, their galactic synchronization, the galactic core, their celestial selves, celestial ascension, all of these things. These sacred sites are a vital aspect to that, and I'm going to explain more as to why in this video, and talk about that in much more depth. So Tulum was actually originally called Zaman, which means City of the Dawn. There were a lot of giant iguanas there. There were lizards everywhere. I have some cute pictures of them here. I'll post into the video here. And apparently Tulum sits over top 10,000 cenotes. So cenotes are underground caverns that extend from extensive underground rivers with deep depths of water that go about 90,000 feet below ground. And there is like over 6,000, 6,000 to 10,000 of them, all within the Yucatan Peninsula. So this was a big deal for the Mayans. The Mayans believed that these cenotes actually kept a person from aging when they frequently went down into them. They were like the fountain of youth. So the Mayans would, go down there to swim and to bathe and things like that. And I actually got to go down in one of the cenotes from the Koba site. So I got to kind of check out how deep it was. It was very, very deep, but very peaceful. I mean, it's basically a underground cavern and a cave deep underneath the earth. So the water was very cool and very refreshing and very pure water. It was very clean. So that was probably one of the highlights of my time there. But as many of you know, I'm going to be down in the Yucatan for about 2 weeks. So I'll be here till the end of February, and I'll be attempting to get as many of the sacred sites here as I possibly can. I want to get to Chichen Itza, Uxmal, Tulum, Koba, which Tulum and Cardi did. But also Ekbalam. There is about 6 to 8 major sacred sites and temples, all within about a 2-hour drive from Cancun, Mexico. So this is kind of a good central point to visit if you want to get to all of these sacred sites to check out yourself. And I'm going to do another update for Koba as well, so I'm kind of putting that together right now. Koba was the most sacred to me versus Tulum. Tulum had 10 times more tourists. It was much more industrialized. They tried to sell you a lot more things. It was, you can barely get to the front gate of Tulum without going through an entire shopping mall of vendors and artists and dancers and people holding monkeys and iguanas, and it is it's pretty intense. So I could barely get through without buying something. I ended up buying an obsidian black mirror, but I needed it because I'm going to be doing some work on Patreon using the obsidian black mirror, because this was really profound for the Mayans. The Mayans worked with obsidian the most, and also the jade stone as well. These two stones meant the most for them. So I'm going to talk about that more too in this update, and also on Patreon as well, because we're going to do some visualizations using the obsidian black mirror. But I just also wanted to tell you guys too, so my typical starseed monthly readings will be a bit on hold until I can return home due to my travels. So I'm thinking April I'll probably start back up again. Usually when I get home from having a long trip, it takes me about another 4 weeks to kind of recalibrate and settle back in. You can hear these birds chirping all around too. So like I said, I hope the background noise isn't too crazy for this video today, but I know that it is going to be loud. I was hoping that my headphones and my microphone would help with some of that disturbance so you could hear my voice more clearly. But thank you for your patience and for staying tuned for all of these changes of the seasons and for my call to travel. So each one of these temples here are so sacred. These are basically gateways into the Mayan galactic code. And these are highly, highly activated at this time. These gate sites are bringing healing to the earth through the beings that take the call to travel in these uncertain times. but also that extenuate into the landmass and through the ley lines. This is a central hub for, I want to say, first to second dimensional regeneration of healing energy through and under the Pleiades constellation, and also Aldebaran, and Arcturus, and also Hydra. So this is a very celestial activated area, particularly with having those 10,000 C notes underground. This generates an immensity of pure plasma that then therefore extenuates out through the geomancy and the ley lines and the grid structures of the Earth into the other signet sites and stargate sites on the planet. And so it's definitely a core resonator. It's a generator. It is a highly activated landmass area with deep ancestral and cultural and spiritual emanations of these vibrations that it releases into the earth, into the Gaian matrix. And many do see this area, Cancun, Mexico, as a party site or a vacation getaway. And believe me, the beaches are popping off right now. So I just went to Moderna Beach when I first got here. I took a couple days to kind of just enjoy myself, and we went to Moderna Beach, and this is like in the heart of Cancun, and the pools are just bumping. Like, it was a big, like, if you've ever been to a Las Vegas pool party, I mean, the Cancun pool parties were like that. Like, everybody was getting drunk and looking all hot and sexy in their bathing suits and dancing and just dancing on the edge of the pool. I almost recorded it to show you guys how crazy it was. But yeah, and every day is like that here. So a lot of people are going hard, but really at the root of all of this, I feel that people are really truly called here because of the Galactic Healing Code, because of the solar cult memory of the Mayans. This is retained deeply in the sacred sites. And the Mayans knew that the sun is not only the sustainer of life, but it's also the mediator of information beamed to and through it from other solar systems. So this is why I'm saying this is highly generated under Pleiades and Aldebaran and Hyades and Hydra and Arcturus. These are some of the main star systems that were honored and worshipped by the Mayans, and where they ultimately tuned in to create their calendar systems and mathematical systems and architectural systems that are still highly and fundamentally one of the most advanced out of all prehistorical civilizations. So you really do receive an abundance of these galactic upgrades here. This is the galactic capital of the world, to be honest with you. These particular gate sites have really never shut down while the rest of the world has been closing with COVID and with these global restrictions and regime changes that we're all, New World Order regime changes that we're all under at the moment. This area has never shut down. They have stayed open, and there are deeper meanings and reasons for that. I do believe another beautiful sea star that I had spoke with the other day told me at the end of this month also there is a 1,000-man meditation that's going to be done here at one of the resorts. 1,000 people will be meditating on the beach for deeper healing. And so underneath the party scene and underneath the tourism traps, there is a lot deeper stuff going on here. Even though it was hard to see on my visit to Tulum, there are people doing sacred things here. But because we are at such a pivotal point in all time, right? 2021, this is like the reverse of 2012. And 2012 was the Mayan Great Year Cycle that made such an immense impact on the collective wave of global awakening. You know, the Mayan Great Year Cycle was the marker point for this. You know, a lot of people woke up in 2012. I mean, I came to the realization, of waking up in 2013. And, you know, and then when I look back, I can see how 2012 had impacted me. Even 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, it was like this an accumulation of things that just kept pushing me to that realization, to that awakening, to that awakening of my soul now living in the flesh. And so the Mayans really don't get a lot of credit for this, at least within the mainstream higher consciousness community, essentially. That the newcomers, the newbies, you know, these types maybe not are aware that this really was made a global awakening because of the Mayan Great Year cycle. But the Mayans are the original sustainers of this wisdom due to their calendar system. So with the state of the world the way it is, and with the virus and these times of crisis, their acts begin to resurface because everything is really tied into this ancient civilization. One way that you can kind of see this is with child sacrifice. Okay, so I'm going to get into a sensitive subject here. So I just want to go ahead and put a disclaimer on this video today. I always recommend you to do your own research and do not fully give yourself to something you do not fully enter over and understand. And a lot of this is coming from my own research. A lot of this is coming from my own guidance from the guardians and from the divine and from my higher self. And so I often will dive into topics that can trigger or upset people, or you know, just be they're triggers to those that don't have the capacity to see deeper into what things really are ultimately. So if you have on lenses, if you haven't activated to your lenses, which lenses are something we're going to actually talk about later in this update, is how many lenses that the Mayans believe were accessed before you could get to your galactic consciousness. But if you're wearing delusional lenses and you're not able to see past the depths of the occult and the hidden, then these things are going to trigger you. So that is the disclaimer today. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of these things. So one way that you can see how some of the Mayan influences interlap and overflap. So one way that you can see how the Mayans interlap into some of this is you can see this with child sacrifice, which has become a big issue, right? Particularly in the States and even all over the world, where child trafficking, smuggling, and other child injustices basically blew up with those deflection tactics of QAnon. Okay, so that has come up under Trump's presidency most primarily, but it's not like it was new news. Okay, it was new news to those that were unaware before, but it wasn't new news before, is what I'm saying. So, but it overlaps with Mayan culture because the Mayans believed in child sacrifice. This was something that they believed was necessary to satisfy their supernatural beings. Okay, and so when I'm starting to talk about this, I am in no way supporting these kinds of acts by bringing this up, or believe that child sacrifice is justified because the Mayans had their own accounts of such acts. I just felt it was necessary to acknowledge, because I have been messaged by individuals wondering if the Mayans were a dark cult due to this fact. But again, this is my research, so diving deeper into this research, what I have seen is that they only seem to do this in times of crisis, transitional phases, famine, and drought. Not that the United States or the current state of the world can speak on the same account of such things, right? But essentially, the wind's blowing pretty good here. Essentially, the Mayans did it when drought or disease or where a major problem in their community would arise. okay, and they would therefore sacrifice humans. That was one reason why they would do these things, and parents would often offer their children for this. So, because they believed the child would keep existing if they did this. They actually thought that infants were the most spiritually strong and the closest to the gods, and would survive the passing of the fourth world into the coming of the fifth. And the Mayans were not the only cultures to do this in history. So still so much is unknown about the levels and the depths of these acts, even still, because the Mayans completely abandoned their cities and their temples. So no one really has the full story at the end of the day. There are books and things that were left behind, like the, I believe it's the Drodex Code. It's in my notes. I don't have the full name, but there's a couple books, scriptures that the Mayans left behind. But I'm not sure to what extent a child sacrifice or human sacrifice in general was left in these things. I think it was called the Dodex or the Drodex Code. Somebody correct me in the comments if you know the name to that. But still so much is left for researchers to discover the truths about these acts. But again, I can understand it seems dark and it seems cruel, but I just wanted to quickly address this because it has been mentioned to me before, and it's something that I don't ultimately wish to focus on for this update, but I'm aware that they did human sacrifice for ritual acts. And because of that reason, you know, all of this ties into why these gate sites are still open right now, why this is a huge generative area right now in terms of global healing, why this is still open for tourism and the rest of the world shut down. You know, a lot of these other Stargate sites have shut down. They've been turned off, so to speak, from beings being able to access. And when I say these sites are hijacked, I did just put a video out about this. Are the Stargates really closed? So if you caught that energy update, I was talking about in the ways in which the gates can actually and cannot really be hijacked. And so you should definitely watch that. I'll leave the link in the description. Interested in that, but essentially one way that they can be hijacked is that they are shut down by the particular running Atlantean celestial grids that shut down particular sites due to global domination and global control, due to colonization intelligences. But this human sacrifice could be one of the reasons why these temples generate so much power, is the deep ritualistic worship that was done here. So we have to get to the rawness of this to really understand it, right? It's that the total human sacrifices that were made here weren't just children. They were actually mostly men. They had the ball courts that the losers of the game were often beheaded. And they believed that the losers had to do this to honor the gods, and the losers took this as an honor to be sacrificed to the gods. They also have certain rituals to certain gods, like the ninth Lord of the Night, which is one of the gods that they worship. So they had 9 Lords of the Night, which I'm going to do a video on about this later. But essentially, many of those lords that they worshipped, lunar gods, were honored with human sacrifice as well. And in the types of human sacrifices that they did, you know, they were very savage about it. I mean, they would just rip the heart out, and they would light a fire in the heart, and they would light temples with the man on a stick. For some of these rituals and the ways in which they did this. So, but again, I'm going to kind of go over some of that. They classified deaths. You know, anything that was of sacrifice was considered an honorable death. Dying during childbirth was an honorable death to them. So it's deep. And I believe overall human sacrifice was seen like I said, as an honorable act. It was a very spiritual act, that it was sacred and trusted to the gods. And to them, sacrifice made them one with the gods. Concepts that today seem completely inhumane. But ultimately, I think they found over time the laws of polarity, the laws of cause and effect. For every action, there is a reaction. So I don't think towards the end of their civilization that, some of the human sacrificial acts continue to serve the community. I think it brought some of these, I think it brought bad consequences to them. And so it began to no longer serve them. But Tulum, some of these sacrifices were made at Tulum. One of the tour guides there was showing us areas that sacrifices were made. It was also an area where many trades took place in many times. Okay, so they actually, it was the main area that distributed the crystal obsidian. So if you have any obsidian, or you work with this crystal, it most likely very well was excavated from the Yucatan. This is the obsidian capital of the world. And so like I said, stay tuned in Patreons, because we're going to be working more extensively with obsidian crystals for Mayan activations. We're going to be grounding with them. We're going to be doing some crystal synthesis with them. And but here at Tulum, they have these ruins that are situated on tall cliffs on the Yucatan Peninsula, right next to the Caribbean Sea in Mexico. It's so beautiful. So Tulum was one of the last cities inhabited by the Maya, and their main architectural piece is the Temple of the God of Wind. So I'm going to go ahead and put this clip in here so you can see this temple here. But there's some more beeping noises, the loud street here. But essentially they use this to predict hurricanes. And so I didn't know this until I went. And this is what's so important about actually going to the archaeological sites, is because there's a lot of things, there's a lot of like inner information you don't get until you go. And so you kind of get the 411. Like you can grid scan, you can scan the grids, you can teleport your energy, you can feel into it as much as you want, but things are not truly activated until you come into a full experience with them. And so it's just, these are just little tidbits of knowledge you don't get until you actually go. But but that's why they called it the Temple of Wind, was to predict hurricanes and storms. And it was also a lookout for, ships and things, and also lighting when the sun would rise. There was a reflection system that they had to light up the area as well. But the temple was it's a very square temple. So when they build things in squares like that, it usually means that the geomancy and the landmass, what I noticed is it seemed to be running off of a quadrant electric fractal imprint in the landmass, extenuating and receiving transmissions from the ley lines, to and from the ley lines. So there's that quadrant aspect here. In Egypt, it seemed to be more octagonal. Here I've been noticing more quadrant emphasis. So that was just something to kind of take note of. Now, the Mayans are so important to human galactic history because they are the ones that brought forth the galactic code. The Mayans believe that the birth of the stars is our own galactic epigenesis. And they believe that geomancy was the Earth's divination, that the expanding and contracting geometries in the Earth, this is what brought sacred communion of all life, was these expanding and extenuating electrical fractal matter building fields. And the Mayans were on a mission to place the Earth and the solar system and the galactic core into total full visibility of galactic community. This is what the Mayans strived for. This is what they were a mission for. And so when I feel into this, it's bringing this emphasis to the mission. And when you think about what being an embodied galactic here now on Earth truly means, is to be in mission. So are you in mission? Are you living for something completely transcended from human limitations, from materialism, from debt, from the entrapment of a mortgage? You know, those things may seem important on some level, but are they really important? What do you value? What are you living for? You know, are you entrapped? Are you in slavery? Okay. This means to transcend these limitations and living for something completely transcended from human limitations. That's what being a galactic is. And so what the Mayans brought a lot of emphasis to. This is one of the reasons why I support also more of the concepts of the Trinity union versus the twin union, right? This ties in because the twin union really does bring lack of full transcendence and does not walk in mission. The union is their mission. Okay, so the Trinity union, this mission, so in a Trinity union, the mission is the mission, but this requires being to be fully healed and aligned to the soul path first for this to transpire. This requires that you become unparalleled in your accomplishments of self-termination, in your achievements, owing yourself completely to the mission first, okay, which is your higher self's duty to fulfill. And so all of this comes up when you are being an embodied galactic, right? And transcending human limitations is transcending relationship consciousness for a good period of the time, for a good portion of this time. It's a part of the process. It's a part of the journey. And so, you know, it all ties in. It all ties in. But this being in mission, this takes you completely beyond the third dimension into the resonant fields of mechanization and galactic synchronization, into the crystalline structures of the earth, which is where one can truly tune into and bring through galactic information. So the Mayans are most primordially and celestially connected to Pleiades, Hyades, Aldebaran, like I said in the beginning. These are the star systems that most of their human sacrifices took place under, and also the planet Venus. Venus was very important as well. Even if you look at Pleiades, one of the stars in Pleiades is actually named Maya. Maya being the mother of Hermes, who was eventually turned into doves, right? If you look at Arcturus, also giving them intelligence needed to bring forth the Tzolk'in, calendars, mathematical systems, okay? They could not have done this without Arcturian influence. And also Hydra, their most revered god, Kukulkan, the plumed serpent, right? And also many other of the lunar gods that they worship were very tied into 7-headed and 5-headed serpents. There's different ones that they have. They were definitely a serpent cult. And so they understood their connection to this, and they honored it. And they actually see Quetzalcoatl as Christed consciousness. And so this kind of ties us back into the caduceus and what the caduceus actually truly means as well, with the serpent rising up the staff. This is actually the serpent rising up the planetary staff is what this means, but it's just embodied on a human biological level that you see it as this caduceus staff. But all of these star systems are being accounted for as universal creation celestial seeds of cosmic galactic human history for the Mayans, which ties us into Lemuria more so. A lot of people will say that this culture was Atlantean, but I do feel that they were Lemurian and going and coming through transitional phases into Atlantean times. That they were some of the original cultures that crossed the original land bridges that I believe that they might have been Siberian originally. So if you know about that, drop that in the comments. But also, if you look at the existing gate sites from Pleiades and Arcturus and Lake Titicaca and Machu Picchu, all within relativity to the coexisting and shared ley lines running through North and South America and also Mesoamerica. That down in those areas, it's mainly serpent temples as well that are around these gate sites and gate areas. So kind of brings me back to my the original creation grid galactic update that I put out, where I'm talking about the Pleiadians truly being hybridized with Hydra, and that these are also serpent cults as well. But you'll have to watch that update to go into that, because I don't have time to go into that information today, but please watch the original creation grid, okay? And the Mayans overall seem to believe that human transcendence and galactic embodiment came to humans through 8 lenses of perception. And so I'm going to talk about these 8 lenses, but you can find more of this information in particular in the book called Mayan Factor by Jose Arguelles. This is a really good read for studying the Maya. He goes, in the beginning it's a little slow because he's talking about his journey and how he came to this point of study, but once you kind of get past that point, he gets to some of the good stuff about the Mayans, and he talks about these 8 lenses. He talks about each of these lenses that the Mayans believed had to be mastered to embody the next. And this was a process of ultimate coming into complete and total. The wind is getting a little crazy right now. Hopefully it can hold out for me to finish the video up. My computer is gonna fly away. So I'm gonna have to hurry and wrap it up, guys, because I think the wind's getting a little crazy. But I just wanted to tell you guys about these 8 lenses. I'm just gonna hold my computer here so I can finish up. But basically, this was a process of ultimate coming into complete and total connection with the Hunab Ku, the galactic center. And he talks about, to become a galactic channel, one must ultimately see through the first 3 lenses. So the first one, the first lens corresponds to the reptilian brain, or the atomic systems. And so this implies that all humans are reptilian for one. Okay, the Mayans knew this. And so any starseeds, that are in denial about not being reptilian is an illusion for one. So I just want to say that, because that just, when I hear people like not being, or when I see people not being able to integrate such possibilities, it's just it's you can see that there's a lot more work to be done internally, essentially, that they're not quite there yet. Okay. Now the second lens responds to the mammalian brain. This is the parts of the brain that is responsible for complex emotions and for anything that makes us human. This controls the functions of memory and learning. The third lens corresponds to the higher mind, and this connects you to the larger planetary body. This ultimately extends from the solar plexus. And I have talked about this before, that the vision ultimately comes from the gut and is passed to the third eye. So this is why gut health is just so important. This is where your plasma fields reconfigure, is ultimately from the stomach. When I've done plasma protection visualizations on Patreon, we focus on plasma protection at the solar plexus. So this is an important aspect. And so this is another reason why drinking alcohol is really, really, really bad. This is going to inhibit your ability to tune into the higher mind lens, because this is done through the stomach. This is the core of the being, just like the galactic core. You may think that this focus needs to be held in the higher chakras, 5, 6, 7, 8, and above, but really you have to focus first and solely on the gut. And then after that, there are 2 more lenses that are provided that focus on the galactic information. So these lenses come from a god called Kuksam Sum to the Mayans that represent the sky leading from the umbilical cord of the universe. And these lenses essentially define the invisible galactic threads or fibers in which connect both the individual and the planet through the sun to the galactic core to Hunab-Ku. Again, these are the same threads from the solar plexus that define the resonant pathways to the Hunab-Ku. Now, the Hunab-Ku would be another lens after that, which meaning that the galactic core is another one of those lenses. And then there are 2 lenses that are provided after that that make one an embodied galactic channel. And so once you get to these lenses of information, you essentially become virtually and instantaneously transmissible to and from the galactic core. And the Mayans defined this as the harmonic matrix. And so in which the galactic mission that they teach this in so many various ways. This is something that you can literally learn just through the Tzolk'in or the 200 or the long count calendar, which was something that I studied the Mayan calendar for 2 years when I was writing my book, How to Read Celestial Akashic Starseed Origins. I was studying the Mayan calendar at this time. And again, this pulls you out of time perceptions, out of the Gregorian calendar perceptions. So it's important to study multiple calendar systems, particularly when you're waking up to higher consciousness, which I know many of you know, so I just wanted to throw that in there. But essentially, what I feel is happening, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, guys, because the wind is just going crazy. I'll have to see what this looks like when I get done recording here. But what all of these lenses ultimately mean when one is accessing this, and why the world is accessing this, which has extended from this great Mayan cycle of 2012, is what is happening, which I feel is the coming of the 6th age of consciousness. And so these Mayan gate sites here and now are preparing humanity for the coming of the 6th age of consciousness. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to say for you guys today. I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. And you can find all of my services at indigoangel222.com. I am still doing sessions down here in Mexico, in between going to the sacred sites. So on my off days, on my more chill days where I'm writing and recording and doing things, I have time to do sessions. So if you've been interested in a J sail removal or an amp session, now is a better time than ever to get scheduled with me, because I have the availability at certain times, and you know, I can transmit these Mayan codes as well. So yeah, but I love you guys so much, and take care. I will be back soon with another Mayan galactic energy update.